For word problem number 4 on the homework, you're asked to set up a genetic cross. So it says, imagine crossing a pea that is heterozygous for flower color, and your options are white or purple. And it's also heterozygous for seed color. And your options are yellow and green. There are a couple of ways to answer this question because the question doesn't tell you which alleles are dominant, so it's up to you what you choose. So let's say we decide that white is dominant, so it'll be a big W and a little w, and then let's decide that yellow is dominant, so we'll have a big Y and a little y. So for flower color, the genotype will be big W, little w, and for seed color, the genotype will be big Y, little y for the first plant. The second plant is homozygous for flower color, and it's white. And homozygous for seed color, and it's yellow. So the first part of the question just asks, what are the genotypes of these two plants? So you'd list this and that. The next part of the question asks, what are the possible gametes each plant will produce? This plant, and remember, gametes will include one allele from every gene. So this plant can produce a gamete. That's big W, big Y, big W, little y, little w, big Y, and little w, little y. This plant can produce only one type of gamete, and that will have a big W and a big Y. So for portion B of this question, you'd list these gametes for one plant and this gamete for the other plant. For the last portion of the question, you're asked, list the phenotypes of the offspring of a cross between these two plants. So you can set up a Punnett square that has the gametes of one plant on one side and the possible gametes of the other plant on the other side. Because the other plant only produces one type of gamete, it makes things simple. So you go through and just write the genotypes. You fill in the genotypes for each possible fertilization combination. So the question asks, list the phenotypes of the offspring. So these are the genotypes. So to get full credit for this question, you then have to interpret these genotypes according to the way you set up the problem. So this individual plant would have white flowers and yellow seeds. The same thing would go for this one. The same thing would go for this one. And the same thing would go for this one. So all of the progeny would have the same phenotype, white flowers with yellow seeds. Depending on how you set up this problem and what allele you established as dominant, you might have a different answer. You might have set up this problem with purple being dominant, so that the genotype for flower color would look like this for the first plant, and like this for the second plant. And then you might have picked green as the dominant allele for seed color. So it would be this genotype for the first plant, and this genotype for the second plant. You might have set up the problem even differently and picked purple as the dominant allele for flower color, but yellow as the dominant allele for seed color. So there were multiple correct answers for this question. It just depends on what alleles you chose as being dominant and what letters you picked to represent those alleles.